Classwork.
Yes, sir.
How many are you know?
We are 30, sir.
You are 30.
Yes, sir.
How many are here? We have only 13, including myself and the ICD person. So what's
Let me
happening?
inform them.
All right.
Fiancé.
All right. Let's start. If they come, fine. If they don't come, that is it. The lecturer should not wait for the students.
Yes,
It is
sir.
not ideal.
Sir, please, you can start.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Ah, why you not hearing me?
No,
No,
please.
sir. No, sir.
Ah. All right, so I will go back again because I started and I realized that nobody was hearing me. What is thinking? Thinking simply means evaluating, understanding issues based on reasoning. Thinking is reasoning, and it is simply a rational approach as scientific approaches, because they look at issues based on the element of verifiability, that whatever is being examined, is being analyzed, can be verified and can be understood based on the application of reasoning. And then what is critical? Derived from the word criticus, Greek word criticus, and it means being able to judge or discern. In life, we make judgments, we make decisions based on how we have evaluated and understood certain things. I'm sure some of you were faced with the challenge of either coming to school or doing something else, because the money that you are going to use to pay the school fees could have been used for something else. But you made that critical decision to come to school. That decision is a judgment for you. You have judged based on your assessment of the challenges you are facing, that, look, it is appropriate for me to come to school. You can also discern. Discernment is understanding, that you don't understand issues based on belief, based on emotions. You understand issues based on reasoning. We have some people who will understand, or who will, have a stubborn approach to issues based on faith, based on emotions. I will not want reasoning to or on rational terms. So when we put critical and thinking together, we get critical thinking. And it is simply the evaluation, systematic, of course, evaluation of all things that we are confronted with based on rational standard. Whatever you do in life, whatever decision you make in life, whatever attempts you make, you don't just wake up and begin to do things like a robot. You are being commanded. Even if you are being commanded, you analyze the issue, you assess the issue rationally, that is reasonably. You assess the issues based on reasoning and decide for yourself whether it is the right thing to do or not to do. So what we see is that if critical thinking is all about analyzing, evaluating issues based on rational standard, and I said rational standard means approach to issues based on reasoning. What we find is that the market woman, the market man, the farmer, the cocoa farmer, who has not been to school, is engaged in critical thinking almost every day, because they assess issues based on the application of the mind. They don't just analyze issues based on emotions. As you can find that some cocoa farmers who were affected by the reduction of the producer price of cocoa by the government, some of them analyze the market situation worldwide and realize that even it was prudent for the government to do that. Because if you're a business person, you buy and then go and sell. And what you are selling, what you are getting on the market is lower than what you are paying to the farmer to buy from the farmer. Then it's better to reduce the producer price of cocoa. But others are based on emotions. Yampini. It all depends on how you apply your mind to the issues. You can apply your mind to the issues, of course, and you will think that you will be on the side of the government. You can also apply your mind to the issues and you'll not be on the side of government. It's all about thinking critically and making a conclusion. The conclusion here is the judgment. The conclusion here could be your understanding of the issue. Now, to do critical thinking, analytical skill will enable you to be able to look at difficult things, complex things that are difficult to understand. You can apply your mind to these complex things and pierce through the complex things and understand it in a very easy and simple way. Sometimes you will see something very difficult to understand, very complex. Somebody can just apply the mind to the whole complex narrative and say, this is what it means. Simple. Breaks it down for you to understand. That is analytical skill. You need that skill all the time. Whether you are in school, you are in business, whatever thing you are doing, you need to apply your analytical skill. You need to engage your analytical skill all the time. We say, engage your analytical skill. Always try to ensure that things that are complex, this is how I can understand it. This is how it means. And that will help. Issues, to weigh issues, to compare issues. We just take them the way they are because that is what we are looking for. But evaluative skill will require you that if you are faced between two situations, for example, you compare them, you weigh them, look at the pros and cons, look at the weaknesses and the strengths, look at the negatives and the positives, look at the similarities and dissimilarities, and take a decision. So I'm faced between using my money to pay school fees or using my money to start a business. You weigh the two. If I use my money to pay the school fees, what are the possible benefits? Will the benefits be felt now? No. But could it be felt in the future? Yes. And if it can be felt in the future, how beneficial is it? If I use my money for business, what are the positives and the negatives? Assess or evaluate them, and then you make your conclusion. You need an explanatory skill. Sometimes certain things happen, they don't come with the explanation, but you should be able to read in between the lines and tell that this is what it means. This is the explanation of it. When this person says this, or what I have said, This is all that I am saying. So, or what accounts for it? What is the reason why this thing has occurred? Read in between the lines and tell the reason for it, the cause of it, the effect of it. And then you need an inferential skill. An inferential skill is a skill that enables you to draw a conclusion. It's a process of drawing a conclusion. Sometimes we are able to analyze, we are able to evaluate, we are able to explain. But when it comes to making a judgment, making a decision that drives us to a conclusion, we are not able to pick. We are not able to make it. Making conclusions are important in life. The conclusion could be your final decision on something. I have decided that I am going to school, whether it is good or not. I have looked at all the pros and cons. This is a conclusion that I have reached, and my conclusion is a reasonable one. You also need a problem-solving skill. You need to solve problems. Life is full of problems. There's no single day you will not try to solve one kind of problem or the other. Are not. We need everything. We face challenges in life. We need to fix these challenges. Even as you are fixing a particular challenge, another one is there. But that is not to say that you are throwing your always find solutions to problems. Your parents have found solutions to problems. Even some of them have not been to school. But every day, any problem they face, they try to find solutions to them. The solutions may be permanent solutions, and they may be temporal solutions. It depends on the situation. You can get a permanent solution depending on the situation, depending on your means. And you can get a temporal solution that enables you to have a breathing space to continue to engage yourself, engage your mind, engage society and all that, to be able to have a permanent solution. Even if there's no permanent solution at that when the temporal one ends, you need another temporal solution. So we are renting. You don't have money to pay when your rent was due or is due. What do? You try to solve the problem. Do I just allow the landlord to throw me out and sleep outside? Or maybe I have to just go and live with someone for some time whilst I prepare myself to get money to pay? Or do I make an arrangement with the landlord temporary to give me this amount of time to be able to pay? All these are solutions. So when you have sometimes solutions that, problems come, every problem, once you're able to identify the problem, you already know the solution. Your car is broken down and maybe the mechanic is able to detect the problem. He knows the solution to it. If your phone is faulty and you take it to the repairer, he's able to identify the problem. He knows the solution. Some solutions are there. All you need to do is identify the problem and apply the solution to it. Sometimes it is not every problem you can identify and then you can apply the solution to it to fix it. You can identify the problem, all right, but when you apply the prescribed solution to it, it doesn't work. So what do? Sometimes you need to think outside the box. Create creative skill. So you are faced with this challenge. The solution is that I have to go and do this. This is what I have to do. It's not working. What do? I have to I have to think outside the box to, to create my own solutions to it. The example I gave about your rent is due, you need to fix it. You don't have the money. What do? You can't get a loan. You don't have a friend. Man to stay and then prepare yourself. What is the solution to it? What can you do to solve the problem? You have to think outside the box. Now, look, maybe I have to go to the village. That is not going to work. That's not going to help me because I'm working in Accra. What do? Think outside the box to get a solution to it. You need an interpretative skill. You need to always understand issues or this skill and then that it makes sense to you, that this is what it means to you. Understand. So now that we know these skills, I don't want to go into the importance of critical thinking and all that. Let me go straight to this question. Now that we know all these skills, we all have these skills, but the levels, the magnitude of the skills differ from person to person. Every day, try to engage yourself, to push yourself beyond your limit, to be able to improve on these skills. Whatever kind of job you are doing, whatever profession, you need all these skills. All right. So now that we are critical thinkers, I have this question. What's the answer?
6.
All right. Somebody says 6. Who else has an answer? Yes. Who else has a different answer?
6.
Yeah.
6.
Do you all concur that it is 6?
Yes, sir.
Are you sure? Because my answer is not 6. My answer is not 6. So if you say 6, yes. My answer is 3, not 6. Now, let's take Andrick. Let's take Eric. And take who else? Who else is a male here? Andrick, Eric,
Jonathan.
Jonathan. We are 3 people. Now, Andrick is a father to Eric. Eric is a father to Jonathan. We have how many fathers? 2. Jonathan is a son to Eric. Eric is a son to Andrick. We have how many sons? 2.
2.
Andrick is a grandfather to Jonathan. Jonathan is a grandson to Andric. So when you do the permutation, it gives you 6. But we are using only 3 people here in one extended family. So you will not get 6. You will get 3. You see, your father has a father. Your father calls your grandfather his father. So your grandfather is a father to your father. Your father is a father to you. So in that extended family, you have 2 fathers. You are a son to your father. Your father is a son to your grandfather. So you have 2 sons. Your grandfather. So the father of your father is your grandfather, and you are a grandson to the father of your father. So eventually, we are talking about 3 people here. But when you do the permutation based on the extended family system, it appears there are 6 people, but in actual fact, there are 3. Now, this is a puzzle, a very difficult thing we need to solve. Critical thinking requires that we should be able to solve this. How do you solve it? Whoever can solve it, you have 10 marks. I give you 5 minutes. If you can solve it, put up your hand. Once you're able to solve it, I'll write down your ID number. Your final exam, you already score, or you already have 10 marks. Let me know. Otherwise, I'll explain that in our next, in class, in our next face-to-face meeting. What is the answer to this? The 3-letter word which can be used to complete all the words below. Are you guys there?
Yes, sir.
So which word can go into all the 5 spaces we have? Well, our answer will be C. If I put R there, I'll get dearest. I'll get there. I'll get there. I'll
There
get
is
care.
fee.
I'll get
Yeah.
parent.
Yeah. Parent. Oh.
All right. So we move to the next subsection, logic. What is logic?
Logic. What is logic?
Now we make arguments every day. When we say logic, what it means is that we evaluate arguments, the evaluation of arguments, to determine how the premises of the argument support the conclusion. So logic, the focus of logic is what? Evaluation of arguments, the study of arguments. And you want to see how the premises of the argument support the conclusion. We'll come to what is a premise, because these are technical words we are introducing. So we'll explain what is a premise, what is an argument. But For now, a premise is simply evidence to a conclusion in an argument. You can't make a conclusion without having evidence. Conclusions are not made in vacuum. They are based on a set of pieces of evidence that can be seen. So when you decide to do something, you don't just decide out of vacuum. You make a decision based on certain things that inform you to do that. Those things that informed your mind, yourself, to do that are the premises, the evidence. That on the basis of all this, I think my decision is this. All right. So we'll come to, let's move on. So we have identified two technical things. That logic is all about evaluating arguments to determine how the premises support the arguments. The premises are simply the evidence to the conclusion. So now that we said logic is all about evaluating arguments, we need to ask ourselves, what is an argument? When we say an argument in logic, it is not the same as an argument as we understand it in common sense. Common sense understanding is that it is a misunderstanding between parties, between two or more people. That is an argument. But in logic, an argument is a number of statements with a conclusion. Any statement from which a conclusion is drawn is an argument. So an argument is made up of two parts. It contains statements. The statements that provide evidence to a conclusion are called premises. And then it also contains a conclusion. So any number of statements from which a conclusion can be drawn or from which a conclusion is drawn is called an argument. It can be one statement followed by a conclusion. It can be two or more statements followed by a conclusion. That one statement followed by a conclusion or two or more statements followed by a conclusion are the premises. They provide the evidence for the conclusion. So an argument in logic is divided into two parts. The one part contains the evidence. It is called the premises. The other part contains the final decision or judgment. It is called the conclusion. So an argument in logic can be represented arithmetically as A is equal to P plus C. A is argument, P is premises, and C is conclusion. So we will now come to what is a premise and what is a conclusion. So now, a proposition is a premise. So when we say an argument is made up of premises and conclusion, these are examples. If we say all students cheat in the examination, we have evidence to prove that all students cheat in the examination. So it's evidence. So if there are ICD or DIT, ICDE students in GCTU, if there's evidence that all students in the world cheat in the examination, and there's evidence that there are DIT, ICDE students in GCTU, then our conclusion is that the DIT, ICDE students in GCTU cheat in examination. So our conclusion is that DIT ICD students in GCTU cheat in examination. What's the basis for our conclusion? One, we have evidence that all students cheat in examination. Two, we have evidence that there are DIT ICD students in GCTU. On the basis of these two pieces of evidence, we draw the conclusion that the DIT ICD students in GCTU cheat in the examination. So that is an argument. The first two statements are premises. The third one is still correct. You don't need to say this is premise one, this is premise two. You don't need to say that this is a conclusion. You can also arrange it the way example 2 is arranged. All humans are mortal. Yao is a human being. If it is true that all humans are mortal, and it is true that Yao is a human being, therefore Yao must be what? Mortal. You can't have all human beings be mortal, and Yao being a human being, you say Yao is immortal. No. The way our evidence is arranged, the structure of our argument must lead us to the conclusion that Yao is mortal. So these are examples of what we call argument in logic. You can also have some politicians are corrupt. There are politicians in Ghana. Because you say some politicians are corrupt, not all politicians are corrupt. Then when we are making our conclusion, then we say, therefore, it is likely that some of the politicians in Ghana are corrupt. That is an argument. The first two are our pieces of evidence. The third statement is our conclusion. Now, there are different ways in which you can write your argument. You can express yourself. First, you can write all of them, not separating them line by line, as in example 1. 2, you can separate them line by line. A statement takes a line. If it's more than a line, you don't join them together. So the 3 statements are not joined together in a continuous way. There's a break from one statement, you break to the next line, to another statement, the next line to another statement. It's also accepted. You can also do it this way as if in the mass form, that you have 2 times 2, then you draw the line, and then you put your answer there. Once you draw the line in the mass form, the line means therefore. So when you draw the line, you don't need to say so, you don't need to say therefore, you don't need to say as a result. Just the statement. The line represents therefore. And so when you draw the line, no more therefore. All of them are accepted. Well, we'll come to the 2 types of arguments in logic. You can say it is a good argument, it's a bad argument. What's a good argument? A good argument is an argument with premises that support the conclusion completely, or the evidence is sufficient to support the conclusion. The evidence supports the conclusion completely, or the evidence is sufficient enough to support the conclusion. I will not go to church. It rained today, therefore I did not go to church. I'll go to school or go to church today. I will not go to school today, therefore I'll go to church today. That's a good argument. The bad argument contains premises with insufficient evidence that provide insufficient evidence to the conclusion. Provide insufficient evidence to the conclusion. So in this case, the premises can be true, but the conclusion may be false. So I saw a cow in Menu's house. or the cow in Menu's house is brown. The cow in Belinda's house is brown. It may be true that you saw a cow in Menu's house and it is brown. It may be true that you saw a cow in Belinda's house and it is brown. But it is false to conclude that all cows in the world are brown. So that is a bad argument. Yes, you have seen a cow in Menu's house. It is brown. Nobody doubts that. That cow is brown. Nobody doubts a cow in Belinda's house to be brown. Nobody doubts that. It is brown. By your conclusion that based on the two that you have seen, you conclude that all cows are brown. That conclusion is false. So the evidence, the premises can be true, but the conclusion is false. That's a bad argument. The same applies to this. You have seen this lecturer, he has a PhD, he's in GCTU. You have seen the second one, he has a PhD, he's in GCTU. You have seen the third one, he has a PhD, it's in GCTU, a lecturer in GCTU. And then you conclude that all lecturers in GCTU have PhD. It may be true that the three you have seen, they have PhDs, all of them have PhDs. But your conclusion that all lecturers in GCTU have PhDs may be false. That's a bad argument. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, please, your voice is low.
All right, so move to the next one. What is a premise? As we said, it provides evidence to a conclusion in an argument. Any statement that provides evidence to a conclusion in an argument is called a premise. Now, your premise can be strong, it can be weak. It is strong when it provides evidence to the conclusion. This is a statement. What is a statement? A statement is any sentence that you can also say the claim is true or false. So statements make claims, and claims can be said to be true or false. If it cannot be said to be true or false, it is not a claim. And therefore, it is not a sentence. Sorry, it's not a statement. It is not every sentence that is a statement, but every statement can be, it's a sentence. There are many intelligent students in this class. I am making a claim. It can be true, it can be false. You can verify to determine whether it is true or false. That is a claim. And that constitutes a statement. We have two types of statements: objective statement and subjective statement. What is an objective statement? It's a statement with a claim that has a universal truth value. A statement with a claim that has a universal truth value. In other words, when you say truth value, means it can be true, it can be false. And as soon as you hear the word truth value, the concept truth value means something can be said to be true or false. It doesn't mean when you say it has a universal So I've been trying to shout for you to understand me. When you say it has a universal truth value, what it means is that whoever looks at it, whoever analyzes it, assesses it, will come to the same conclusion. No differences in conclusion, the same conclusion. For example, if I say Ghana gained her independence on 6 March 1957, whether you're a Ghanaian or not, wherever you are, when you search for the evidence, you will come to the conclusion that this statement is true. Everyone, wherever you are, once you can get the evidence through the statement, or once you can search for information to determine whether the statement is true or not, the information you get will lead you to one conclusion, that the statement is true. That is an objective statement. If I say Ghana gained her independence on 21st March 1957, it is an objective statement. Everyone, whether Ghanaian or non-Ghanaian, who searches for information about this statement will come to one conclusion, that the statement is false. That is an objective statement. It is false universally. It is true universally. Then we have a subjective statement, a statement with a claim that is not universal, that the truth value is not universal. When you make a statement that makes a claim, but the claim does not have a universal truth value, that is a subjective statement. The answer to it, whether it is true or false, the answer to it is not the same everywhere. It's not the same among people. It's not the same from time to time. Today, I can say it is true. Tomorrow, I can change my mind and say it is false. So somebody can say the best political party in Ghana is NDC. Some of you will say, yes, it is true. Others will say, no, it is false. And even those who will say, yes, it is true, tomorrow they may change their minds and say, no, it is false. And those who say, yes, no, it is false, some of them can change their mind and say, yes, it is true. That is a subjective statement, a devised opinion. You will never have one holistic answer to it. We have differences in the answer to it. So a subjective statement, devised opinion, a devised opinion. Some will say, yes, it is true. Others will say, no, it is false. That is a subjective statement. Because we said premises are statements, that's why I explained what statements are and the types of statements we have. Are we fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes. All right. So we move on to the features of premises. One feature we said it is a statement that provides evidence to a conclusion. The evidence to the conclusion, no, sir, is what? The reasons or, yes, so the reasons or evidence to the conclusion, that's a premise. Any statement that provides reasons or evidence to support your conclusion is a premise. And then we also say it has a truth value. Truth value means it can be said to be true or false. Any statement that you make that can be said to be true or false has a truth value and it is a premise. Now, premises can be stated clearly in an argument for you to see in black and white. Sometimes they are stated clearly in the argument for you to see in black and white. So you don't need to figure out. All humans are mortals. Efo Kofi is human. Therefore, Efo Kofi is mortal. You see in this argument, the first two statements are our premises. They are stated clearly in black and white for you to see. Sometimes it's not stated clearly in the argument for you to see in black and white. You have to analyze the argument and figure out the missing premise. Sometimes some of the premises, one premise or two, will be missing in the argument. will not be stated in the argument. You have to figure out the missing premise. And arguments with missing premises, we say such premises are implicit, and such arguments are called etymem. An etymem is an argument with one or two missing premises. You have to analyze the argument carefully and figure out the missing premise or premises. So look at example 1. Who can figure out the missing premise? I'll give you much. Who can figure out the missing premise? Sarah was not at the party. And then we concluded. The second statement is our conclusion. It could not have been Sarah that Jack was dancing with at the party. What's the missing premise? Another statement must tie up with our first statement that Sarah was not at the party before we can conclude that then it could not have been Sarah that Jack was dancing with at the party. That is missing there. Who can help? Sarah was not at the party. Then the second statement will be Jack was dancing with a lady at the party. Because we know Sarah was not at the party, and because we know Jack was dancing with a lady at the party, then we conclude that then it could not have been what? Sarah that Jack was dancing with at the party. So the missing premise is Jack was dancing with a lady at the party. Now, look at this one, which is in a continuous sentence form, a prose form. Alicia wears Barker shorts. We could have done full stop. When you say, anytime you see which proves that, that's the conclusion. Which proves that you don't have to be a slave queen to wear Barker shorts. What? There's a statement that is missing. What is that statement? There's a missing premise. If Alicia wears Barker shorts, then we conclude that which proves that you don't have to be a slave queen to wear Barker shorts. What is missing there? Look ahead. Hello?
Sir,
Yeah.
Yes?
we can say Alisa is not a slave queen.
Yes, that's the missing premise. Alicia wears Barker shorts. She's not a slave queen. Therefore, you don't have to be a slave queen to wear Barker shorts. So the missing premise is that Alicia is not a slave queen. That's the missing premise. So you have to figure out the missing premise for yourself. All right. Just give me 1 minute. Somebody is delivering something to me.
Alisa is a slave queen.
All right, I'm back. So another feature we can identify of premises, some of them can be compound statements, like proposition. A compound statement makes two or more claims. Some of them can be simple statements. It makes only one claim. A statement that makes one claim is called a simple statement or proposition. Premise or proposition. But if I say Kofi is singing, the other claim is that Kofi is dancing Agbaja. And therefore, my statement is a compound premise or proposition. You can also have Ama is singing and Kofi is dancing Agbaja. A compound one. But if it makes one claim, it is a simple premise or statement. Now, some premises make general claims, universal claims, and others make particular claims, claims about a subset. It doesn't make claims about the universal set. It makes a claim about the subset of the universal set. That is particular premises. So if it's any, so all the statements were all humans are mortal, it makes general. So if it's a GCE students are intelligent, it means all GCTU students are intelligent. It makes general. If it mentions one person, some people, then it is particular. Some Ghanaians are rich, it is particular. It is not all Ghanaians. So we said a proposition or premise makes a claim, and the claim can be said to be true or false. So use the marker. The claim can be said to be true or false. Any statement you make, ask yourself, can it be true or false? If it can be true or false, then it is a premise or a proposition. Snow is green. It can be true or false. I am Kofi Moabi. It can be true or false. I can gather information, or people can gather information to determine if indeed I am Kofi Moabi or I am impersonating. It can be true or false. But any statement or any sentence in a question form is not a premise, because a question cannot be said to be true or false. Any sentence in the form of an exclamation is not a premise, because exclamations cannot be said to be true or false. Any expression which is not a complete sentence is not a premise, because it is not complete for us to know, for us to be able to say it can be said to be true or false. Man of God is not a complete sentence, and it is called a sentence fragment. An incomplete sentence is a sentence fragment. It doesn't have a subject. It doesn't have a predicate. Now, let's move away from premise. Now we come to inference. Inference is when you draw a conclusion in an argument. And it is not the drawing of the conclusion, but the process, the steps you take to draw a conclusion is inference. And the steps you will take to draw a conclusion, you need to identify, one, the premise, two, the conclusion. Once you identify the premise, that this statement is a premise, this statement is a premise, this one is a conclusion. That's those steps you take to identify the statements in the argument. It's a process that leads you to the conclusion. Therefore, inference plays two roles. Or inference has two components. In fact, inference, you should have what is called inference indicator. An inference indicator is when you go through the statements, identify A statement as a premise, B statement as a premise, C statement as a premise, D statement as a conclusion. The process of identifying them, and in this process of identifying them, you are looking for certain words that will help you to identify that this is a premise, this is a conclusion. These words that help you to identify a premise, identify a conclusion in an argument are called inference indicators. What that means is that an inference indicator can be divided into two parts. One part will give you a premise indicator, which helps you to identify a word that helps you to identify the premise in the argument. The second part will give you a conclusion indicator, which helps you to identify the conclusion in an argument. So inference indicator is made up of these two component parts. So what is a conclusion indicator? A word or words in an argument that help you to identify a conclusion in an argument. There are certain words. Anytime you see these words, most of the time, not anytime, most of the time, when you see these words, whatever statement that follows is a conclusion. If the moment you say therefore, you are making whatever follows, you are making a conclusion. And what that means is that the word therefore is a conclusion indicator. It helps you to identify the conclusion in the argument, the statement that forms the conclusion. When you say thus, hence, so, for this reason, consequently, which follows that, which proves that, which means that, as a result, you are mentioning the conclusion. Well, conclusion indicators, they help you to identify the conclusion in an argument. And then we also have premise indicators, words or group of words that help you to identify a premise in an argument. Some words help you to know that this statement is providing a reason, evidence in the argument. It is not the conclusion. When you words like since, because, assuming that, all of these are premise indicators. Once you, whatever statement that comes after them, mostly provides reason in support of something. You are late to school and say, I am late to school because you are providing the reason. These words help us to identify the reason in support of a conclusion in an argument. But let's be careful. It is not always the case. I said in most cases, it is not always the case that when you see them, it shows premise indicator or conclusion indicator. We have said since it's a premise indicator. And when we said any statement that comes after it. But here, yesterday is not a statement. You can't have yesterday as a statement. Yesterday doesn't make a claim. So since it's used here, not as a premise indicator, but an adverb. The same applies to so. Cute, whatever follows so, we find that the word that follows so is not a statement. It doesn't make a claim. Therefore, so in this sentence is not a conclusion in the the statement that all other statements in the argument provide evidence in support. A statement in an argument that all other statements in the argument provide evidence in support. So a conclusion is always one statement out of many. Even if there are 10 statements in an argument, it is only one that serves as the conclusion. The rest of the 9 provide evidence in support of the conclusion. So it is only one statement that you can get as a conclusion. The rest provide evidence in support of it. So if you say, all men are womanizers, Efo Adagle is a man, they will say, therefore, Efo Adagle is a womanizer. The first 2 statements are providing evidence to support our conclusion that Efo Adagle is a womanizer. What evidence do you have to prove that Efo Adagle is a womanizer? 1, we have evidence to prove that all men are womanizers. 2, we have evidence to prove that Efo Adagle is a man. Therefore, he's a womanizer. So the first 2 statements are providing evidence in support of our conclusion that Efo Adagle is a womanizer. So the conclusion is always proven by statements or evidence. It is not providing, the conclusion is not providing evidence in support of any statement. That one, it is rather the statement that is being proven, that is being supported by evidence. So you can have your conclusion clearly written in the argument for you to see in black and white. If the conclusion is clearly written in the argument for you to see in black and white, it is called an explicit conclusion. You don't need to, all you need to do is to identify it. It is among the number of statements that are indicated. It is written in black and white for you to see. You have to just identify it. That is an explicit conclusion. So we have here, all men are cheats. Elijah is a man, therefore Elijah is a cheat. Therefore Elijah is a cheat. It's our sometimes the conclusion is not written in black and white for you to see. It is not written in black and white for you to see. You have to figure it out, analyze the argument carefully. Clean the one of us will have to clean the board. It won't be me. Therefore, what will be my conclusion? The conclusion is not written for you. You have to analyze the argument and draw your conclusion. One of us will have to clean the board. It won't be me. Therefore, what?
I won't clean the board. I won't clean the board.
You have to clean the board. About you. So let me say, where's the class rep?
Yes, sir.
Class rep, where are you?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
What's your name?
Andrick, sir.
Andrick.
Yes, sir.
Andrick behaves like the madman. The madman is a fool. What will be your conclusion?
Andrick is a fool. Andrick must be the madman.
No, Andrick is a fool. Andrick behaves like the madman. The madman is a fool. Therefore, what it means is that Andrick is a fool.
Andrick is a fool. Yeah.
So sometimes somebody will make statements like this. You have to draw the conclusion. The way the person has made the statement, it is clear that the conclusion is that Andrick is a fool. And that's an implicit conclusion. And many times, or many a time, we'll make statements or an argument like this. We'll not draw the conclusion for you. You have to draw. You have to be smart and draw the conclusion. So this is what you mean. So that is an implicit conclusion. An implicit conclusion, the conclusion is not written for you to see. You have to draw the conclusion. Naomi will go home or visit the boyfriend after lectures today. And I said, Naomi will not go home after lectures today. Conclusion.
Naomi will visit the boyfriend after lectures.
Yes, it means Naomi will visit the boyfriend after lectures today. So you have to draw the conclusion from it. Good. Now, in all the examples we have seen, you find that the conclusion is the last statement. In most instances, that is what you find. The conclusion is the last statement. But it is not guaranteed that all the time the conclusion must be the last statement. It can be the last statement, it can be the first statement, and it can be in the middle of the statement. So the conclusion, it is not always guaranteed that the conclusion should be the last statement. But in most cases, you find it as the last statement. So don't always assume that your last statement is your conclusion. You have to analyze the statement carefully. Look at them carefully before you identify one of them as a conclusion, especially if the statements do not come with premise indicators and conclusion indicators. You see here, there's no because, since, therefore. So how do you know the conclusion? It is easy when the indicators are there. But where the indicators are not there, don't just jump to the conclusion that the last statement is the conclusion. No. Here, I didn't indicate the indicators, premise indicators and conclusion indicators. But the last statement is not my conclusion. Rather, the first statement is my conclusion. I have decided to state the conclusion first and provide evidence to support it. And I have 4 statements, and I ask you which of them is the conclusion. I have 4 statements, which of them is the conclusion? Now, here, the first statement is my conclusion. We could not have done any better than we did. I have concluded that we could not have done any better than we did. Why? The other 3 statements are providing reasons why we could not have done any better than we did. So you can, here we are not providing therefore, but you can analyze the connections between the statements and determine which one is the conclusion and which other ones are premises. So we have explained what an argument is. We have looked at the characteristics of a premise. We have looked at the characteristics of a conclusion. We have gone through how you can draw your conclusion. So we have now dealt with what constitutes an argument in logic. Now, what of an argument? The opposite of an argument. When you say a number of statements do not constitute an argument, what it means is that those statements are non-arguments in logic, or the group of them will form a non-argument. What is a non-argument? A group of statements that a conclusion cannot be drawn from. You can't draw, you can't draw a conclusion from them. They are just a number of statements. They are not connected to each other logically for you to draw a conclusion. So the technical definition is that a group of statements without an inferential relationship, without a relationship that will enable you to make an inference, to draw a conclusion. That is a non-statement. So where they have no inferential relationship, they don't connect to each other logically for you to draw a conclusion, then the statements are said to be, or all of them together are said statements that can be said to be an argument, report, and all that. So we'll take them one after the other. All the statements you put together separate claims that are unconnected to be able to make a conclusion, an advice, a belief. Is there a Catholic in this class? Is there a Christian in this class?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. I believe we are all Christians.
You
Yes,
believe?
sir.
So who can recite the Lord's Prayer for me? Holy Amenu Veve. Holy Amenu Veve. Can you please recite the Lord's Prayer for me? Holy Amenu Veve. Are you in class? Yes, you are. You can hear me loud and clear. Hey. You see, when you recite the Lord's Prayer, at the end of the day, you say Amen. Amen is not the conclusion, because a conclusion must be a statement that makes a claim. Amen is not making a claim. If you say Our Father who art in heaven, blah blah, they are just statements that are not connected logically to each other to draw a conclusion. All the statements that form the Lord's Prayer, none of them is a conclusion. You must have a situation where all the statements in the Lord's Prayer are proving one conclusion. One statement should be a conclusion, but we don't have that. So opinions, beliefs, prayers, and all that, they are not arguments. You can have all kinds of statements put together. They are not arguments. When you are reporting, this happened. It happened this way. It happened that way. It happened. Here, the vice president is there. Many of the ministers are there, and blah 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 blah. There is no conclusion. None of the statements serves as the conclusion out of the many statements in the report. It is just stating claims, or making claims and claims upon claims without a conclusion. And then you have loosely associated statements. You can have statements that may be talking about the same thing or have a same predicate, but they are not connected logically. That one leads to the other. And because one leads to the other, you can draw a conclusion. You can have situations where you say, Kofi and Nama are in class. Yes, there's evidence to prove that. Some of the students are in class. There's evidence to prove that. The teacher that's entered the class today or entered the class to start today's lecture, there's evidence. None of them, there's no conclusion. And so what's the conclusion? Yes, they are all talking about something relating to class, but they are not connected to each other to say that One is a conclusion, the others are pieces of evidence. And then you have illustrations, where you have a number of statements. And out of the number of statements, some of them are examples, illustrations. Then altogether cannot be an argument. Illustrations are not making different claims. Every example is not making a different claim. It is rather amplifying the claim you have made earlier. If you don't make a claim earlier, you can't say, for example. So it is only adding more weight to an earlier claim. But in logic, every statement must make a different claim. And these claims must be connected in a pattern that you can draw a conclusion out of them. And so where you have examples in a number of claims, then the whole text, all the statements together do not form an argument. But there's one way you can have an argument where examples are made, where statements contain examples. And in this case, we call it an argument from example. How is it? An argument from example, we have situations where each example is making a different claim. It is not just amplifying a claim that had been made earlier. It is making a different claim in support of a particular claim. So my conclusion is that some Ghanaian and Nigerian celebrities die at a young age. And I am using the phrase, for example, or another example to make my claims. Every claim is giving me, or every, for example, is giving me a different claim to support my conclusion that some Ghanaian and Nigerian celebrities die at a young age. This is the only instance where statements are made in the form of examples, and yet they constitute an argument. Then you have explanation. When you are explaining something, you are not making a different claim. For argument, every sentence must make a different claim. But explanation is only giving details to an earlier claim. Of that claim. So if I say there are many intelligent students in this class, and I move on to explain why I say there are many intelligent students in this class, those statements I construct to explain my statement are not making different claims. They are only breaking down my statement to understand. Where you have exclamations, exclamations don't make claims. So where you have exclamations, then wherever you find the exclamations, the number of statements that come, even if there's one exclamation among them, the group of statements, if there are about 10 statements, one of them is an exclamation. All of them together cannot become an argument because of the exclamation. And then you have a conditional if A, then B. If it rains today, then I will plant corn. If A, then B, the part that contains the if clause is called the antecedent clause, or the simply antecedent. The part that contains the then clause is the consequent. And B is the conclusion. No, It is making two claims together in one statement. It doesn't mean that one part is a premise, the other part is a conclusion. Altogether, make two claims in one statement. Unless you have one or two other statements joining it. So if I say, if it rains, then I will plant corn. It rains today. When I say, if it rains, then I'll plant corn, full stop. It rains today, full stop. Therefore, I will plant. So it must be joined with another or other statements before we can have a conclusion. Sentence fragments, an incomplete sentence cannot be an argument because it is not complete for you to be able to say the statement can be said to be true or false. Once it is not complete. So if you have a number of statements, even complete statements, but you have one or two statements that are not complete in there, then all of them together cannot be an argument because of that one statement which is incomplete. And then expository passages. We are almost there. It's time, eh? Expository passages. Expository passages are passages which are in the form of paragraphs. You know, when you are writing, essays, you departmentalize or compartmentalize your ideas in the form of paragraphs. Every paragraph contains one idea or two ideas joined together. And every paragraph will contain a topic sentence. What is a topic sentence? It is a sentence that states the idea, the main idea in the paragraph. That is a topic sentence. If you want to write a right word as a scholar, you must state your idea. You don't explain it in that sentence. You state the idea. All men are fools. That's your topic sentence. And then the other sentences will break it down. Why are all men fools? You explain. The other sentences that explain your topic sentence are called supporting sentences. So expository paragraphs, it has a topic sentence. That's the main idea. All others are explaining it, just like how we have explanation. Because the sentences are not proving a particular claim. Unless the sentences are proving a particular claim, then you can say that each paragraph is an argument. Any question? Any question?
No, sir.
Maybe next week Thursday or this coming Thursday, next week, I will shift your lecture from Saturday to Thursday evening. So our class rep, you get in touch if I'm free, because today I have to forgo one class to be able to teach you online. I have face-to-face with the IS students. But if I have to teach them on Saturday, we have to shift it to a different time. And Saturday is one of my busiest days. I have after 1 to 3, 11 to 1, 1 to 3. Then I have 4:30 to 6:30, 6:30 to 8:30 Today, I have decided to forego the 11 to 1 lecture so that I can have that with you. So perhaps next week, we'll have to fix, we have 3 topics more. How many weeks do you have? We have done 3 topics already. No, the first meeting we did inductive arguments. And then the face-to-face, we did propositional logic. We will do language and definition. All right, so class rep, always get in touch, okay? Class rep. All right, see you next week.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Bye.
What's the next class? Meeting.